China has been praised at the second session of the United Nations Environment Assembly for its efforts to green the economy. It's the fourth day of high-level environmental talks taking place in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. The host country's president attended today's session, and addressing delegates, President Kenyatta pledged Kenya's commitment to the fight against illegal wildlife trade. Let's get some more insights and analysis on this from William Gomede. He's an associate professor at the Graduate School of Public and Development Management at the University of Witwatersrand in Johannesburg. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Gomede. Wildlife conservation, though, efforts with a focus on stopping trade in wildlife and wildlife products was among the key issues discussed at the UN Environment Assembly today. Do you think, though, enough attention is being given to this issue, and what do you think needs to be done?
You know, there hasn't been in the past, there hasn't been much of a priority, to these issues, because I think often what people, the argument is often, particularly in African countries and also in developing countries, that, the environment comes last. The focus has been, let's develop and let's, we can do environment and deal with it later. But clearly, I think there's been a change, very, very recently, where leaders are starting to understand that, there has to be a symbiosis between the environment and development, and we cannot leave the environment behind while we're focusing on development, because we will destroy our own development. So I think really we are now starting to see, the political will on the continent itself, but also, in many other developing countries.
Well, there were also discussions, though, on developing what has been described as green economies. Is this viable, though, in the developing world, especially in Africa, and considering the development deficit and the need to use all available resources to accelerate development?
I think in the African context, it is very important, and I think it's very useful. You have to, Africa, almost every African country, most of the economy is in agriculture, and most of the job in Africa is either in agriculture or in the informal sector. So really there are opportunities, in the African context to use, to take a part of green economy, but we're going to have to do it very, very smartly, and we have to learn the lessons, from other countries in the developed world, the mistakes that they have made, and that we don't make the same mistakes. Because if you think about it, I mean, most African economies are agricultural economies, and most of the jobs are being created in agriculture. So it is more important for us that we retain the green parts of our economies, because that is what providing us the jobs, and also from in Africa, our comparative advantage is really the green economy, because we've got the food, we've got the land, but how do we make a green economy sustainable that it benefits Africans and not others outside the continent?
All right, Professor William Gomede joining us there from Johannesburg. Thank you, sir.